crossbar is absolutely brilliant. That is the touch of a genius.
The following documentary critically analyses the limited educational provisions in place at professional football clubs. With the ever-increasing influx of foreign owners and players, combined with the commercial power of football, the industry has become more ruthless than ever. As such, it is fundamental that footballers have qualifications to fall back on. We caught up with Dean Watson about his scholarship experience between the ages of 16 to 18. His story gives us an insight into how quickly things can change.
I was picked up by Preston North End at the age of 10. Basically went through all the youth teams to the under 16s. I was then offered a YT for 2 years. Did my 2-year YT, everything was going well. Like I'd always been told like I was going to make it, like I was making great progress. And then came to the end of my 2-year YT, and I got offered a 1-year pro, which was great news. Like I'd made it, I was so happy. And then about 2 months into my contract, I snapped my ACL, and it just went downhill from there. So after snapping my ACL, it was a long recovery, and I came back with only a few months left of my contract, and it wasn't the same. After a couple of months of trying to prove myself, I just couldn't let go, and they cut ties with me, Preston North End, and after that it was just a natural progression to move down through the leagues. I went to Tranmere Rovers, a couple of lower clubs, and then I just still didn't get picked up, and then went into non-league, and I've still been chasing the dream. I just can't give up on it.
Without an education, Dean struggled to find his feet.
While I was at Preston, there was no focus on education or anything, so now that I've been released and I'm at a semi-professional club, I've nothing to put on my CV in terms of education, which has led to me getting just basically a manual labour job in a factory.
I guess it's funnier from where you're standing, 'cause from over here I miss the joke.
We interviewed 3 ex-professionals who gave us an overview about the lack of education provided and the problems that arose from this.
When I tried to broach Burnley about doing my A-levels, my parents and I kind of got the feeling that it was almost frowned upon. They didn't really want me to pursue that line of education. They'd rather me do the BTEC sport.
Or it was either studying 2 days a week whilst balancing football, or doing a BTEC and playing football, and neither of them really interest me, because I didn't know how well my football was going to go. I didn't know whether I was going to be lucky with injuries, managers, and you don't know how it's going to work out,
and it just kind of highlights the nature of football, that it's quite a lot of luck involved, it's quite cutthroat, and there's so many different variables and factors that a little change can make such a big difference.
Oliver was one example of someone who had to choose between education and football.
Yeah, I think over the 2 years when I was trying to balance the education and football, it was certainly difficult. I think it certainly affected my football. I felt I didn't probably progress as much as I would have done if I'd taken the full-time route. I saw sort of players who were probably worse than me at the age of 16 go full-time, then they were suddenly ahead of me, maybe playing in the team ahead of me and things like that, so it certainly affected me in that sense. But in the end I think it worked out for me, and these players, the education they received, although I think Man United would probably offer the best in terms of they had their own teacher at a good school, etc, etc. It's not really much to fall back on in terms of if you're out of football through injury or something like that, and it easily happens.
Their knees are packed up, or their ankles packed up, or back was packed up, whatever, and they've got his families to support. How are they gonna get that money? Doesn't, they're not just gonna lift a brick up one day and think, oh, that's lovely, there's 50 grand sitting there, cheers. No, it's gonna have to come from somewhere, and I don't understand what they're going to do. I really ask myself. I mean, the ideal scenario is that you balance your football with your studies, and that doesn't seem to be the communication between the schools and the football clubs, there seems to be a lack of it. Either your football suffers because you're doing 2 days a week studying, or your studying suffers because you're doing playing too much football. There seems to be no happy medium. There's no intermediate. There doesn't seem to be an intermediate man between the professional life and the footballing life. There needs to be some sort of like welfare officer or something. Which is, I mean, you know, you've got the FA in place, all the money and all the funding they get, and they can't seem to think of an idea of how to set up like a stopgap. You wonder why, you know, footballers get stereotyped as being thick. It's because of, you know, stupid, inconsiderate people like this who don't care about, as soon as a player's gone, they don't, right, that's it, they're off the books, don't care about it now. Well, that's great, thanks, brilliant. And then they just become a burden on society and start leading into doing stupid things. Like I've got a friend in football who had all the attributes possible. You know, had everything going for him. He represented Ireland numerous occasions up until the age of, you know, under 18, under 21 level, playing with some players that are playing in the Premier League, Championship, top leagues, where he travelled all over Europe with them and played for Southend, been on the TV playing against on Anfield against Liverpool, and you know, everything's going well from everything. All of a sudden they turn around and go, you know what, George, sorry mate, you've got to go. And now he's delving in things that he shouldn't be. He's getting himself involved with drugs and dealing drugs, and the only sort of job that he feels like he's able to find is manual labour, and it's just no good. It's not. What sort of a life is that? And it seems to be the only way out at the moment. And it's such a shame that there's no one in the football association that opens their eyes to this problem. It's like if we leave it long enough, it'll go away. No, it won't, because the problem is they'll become burdens on society.
Michael Kinsella showed that with no qualifications, he, like many others, turned to crime.
Because I was an ex-professional footballer. I played for Liverpool and I was released at 18. Sadly, things didn't turn out as I'd once dreamed. I journeyed from club to club. I tried a bit at Bury, Tranmere, and finally some semi-professional teams, and it just really wasn't working out for me. What I realised was I had no real life skills to gain proper employment. I missed an opportunity to get an apprenticeship when I was at Bury, because that passes you by when you're trying to get a career in football. However, although I didn't have this career plan, I did know how to survive, and I did then end up, regretfully, turning to drugs, because growing up on a council estate, you know, you just end up knowing people. I ended up going to prison for 6 years. My life was a complete wreck. I had no friends, nobody to turn to, and no idea how I was going to get back on my feet. My 6-year spell in prison really put things into perspective for me. Seeing lads and families destroyed by the belief that they're going to be professional footballers, they didn't really have anything else in life, they didn't know what else to do in life. Myself falling to crime, then seeing my brother fall through injury and depression provided the inspiration to create this scheme. Onside is a training company in education based at Liverpool Hope University that supports young footballers search for employment after falling into hard times. Currently we have 50 kids signed on to Onside, also with 5 full-time staff. By year 3 we aim to have 10 sites set up across the country, because the issue is massive, and quite simply help provided by the club is nominal.
Mike set this up with the hope that one day people, the FA and FIFA, will stand up and realise the extent of the problem. But for now, Onside is there to act as a safety net for a handful of young players.